Do you trust this government? Donald Trump isn't even in charge fully of this government, regardless of what he or those around him think. But I think they know they're not. The narrative just seems too convenient, doesn't it? I'll get into this a little bit more with Leo Holman, so please don't go anywhere. But I do hope you'll go over to worldviewtube.com, worldviewtube.com. And I do hope you will watch the segment that is now standalone, and it's entitled Charlie Kirk, The Battle for Truth and 1 Second After You Die. Charlie Kirk, The Battle for Truth and 1 Second After You Die. You should send this around to any of your friends who are seekers, who are asking questions. Send it to Christians, non-Christians. Use this as an opportunity, folks. You know, it's very interesting that yesterday, if you were with us, Bill Federer came on the broadcast minutes after the announcement was made, while we were still waiting for the official confirmation Charlie had passed. Although we were saying at the news desk, there's no way one can survive that. That was a mortal hit. But they finally announced what we all knew what to be true, although we were praying for a miracle. And while we were waiting for an update on Charlie's condition officially, Bill Federer said he had just received a text from Charlie the day before. He had spent a week. He just returned and spent a week with Charlie in South Korea. They're fighting the communists. As you know, we've been talking about that with Gordon Chang, who'll be a keynote speaker at our upcoming conference, as the communists are trying to take over South Korea. And they went over there to give aid and comfort to conservatives and Christians in South Korea, and Bill was with him. And Bill said yesterday that Charlie, the day before, had texted him this Bible verse, 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 9. For a great and effective door has opened to me, and there are many adversaries. Yeah. Do you have adversaries? Galatians says, I've become your enemy because I tell you the truth. And yet, look at the people on social media, on video, celebrating the murder, the assassination of a young father, a young husband, 31 years old. We have many adversaries, but we know ultimately this is a spiritual battle. Well, a door has been opened. An effective door has been opened. You have an opportunity now, perhaps, to share with people the truth about the real issues of life and death in a very small window that's going to close soon. This door is open right now, but it's going to close soon. People will go on with life. Another news event and cycle will happen. And within a week or so, this will move on. So you have a door open right now, but it is a small window. Use it. Talk to people about the issues of life and death. And 1 second after you die. I think we can help you do that with this free presentation over there. Charlie Kirk, The Battle for Truth, and 1 Second After You Die. It's at worldviewtube.com. We'll also be joined by Annie Cyrus on who were some of the countries behind 9/11 24 years ago today. Joining me first up is a man who was there in the Pentagon when it happened and who went into action bringing out survivors in the thick smoke. Colonel Rob Maness, one of our broadcasters here at Worldview Tube. Colonel, welcome to the broadcast today. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me on, Brandon.
Tell us about that day, will you? You're in the Pentagon. You're in one of the secure rooms that most people don't ever go into. What was going on that day?
What was actually happening that day was a global nuclear command and control exercise. My day job, so to speak, in the Pentagon was on the Joint Staff as a nuclear operations officer, working for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, and the President. And our global exercise, so everybody's heard about the Doomsday airplane, the big white 747 with the blue stripe on it, Cheyenne Mountain out in Colorado and those kind of places. So we sent... in those days, we would send a member from our office to each one of the nodes around the world while U.S. Strategic Command would conduct this global nuclear warfare exercise. And the Doomsday aircraft was actually launching from Andrews Air Force Base with one of my bosses on the aircraft to initiate that exercise when the plane hit the Pentagon. And from that point on, once the plane hit the Pentagon, the National Military Command Center where I worked, and I was part of that team along with the other ops folks, went into command and control mode and trying to help the operations desk staff, which is led by a general officer, a 1-star, or an admiral, and has about 30 operators running it. It's where you get the phone call answered when you call 1-800-Pentagon in the emergency. The ops desk there, led by the general and his staff, are the ones who are manning it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we attach to that staff in a crisis that might involve nuclear forces and those kind of things. So we just pitched in and started helping those folks start figuring out who did this, what decisions needed to be made that we could help the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the Secretary of Defense and the president make, figure out what to do with these forces that are now in motion for this nuclear global war exercise that was occurring. And all of our people were there and getting that type of work done, and the things that were happening were decisions like the Secretary of Transportation on the recommendation of the new chairman of the Joint Chiefs to land, make all the airliners land, or that were either in Canada coming into the country or flying over the country. Do things like, do we evacuate the building, and helping make that decision? Look at the current intelligence and see if we have any idea who might have done this. Is anything else coming at us? Those types of decisions were all being made in the hours, minutes, and hours once we figured out that this was an attack on America, and the Pentagon had actually been hit. And once those types of things were in motion, they started doing evacuations, and I was one of the last people evacuated. And as I was coming out of the building, I ran into a friend of mine, and we were on the north side of the building, and all of the casualties were being brought out that way. And I just saw him, asked him what the situation was, got an update, and I started helping with the casualties that were coming out, getting them down to a medical team that had set up. There's a clinic in the Pentagon, and all of their people were bringing the equipment out to set up a triage and emergency care areas so we could figure out how to transport these folks that were living to the hospitals and emergency trauma centers.
And that's where you met. That's where you ran into Brian Birdwell. But you didn't know who he was. He didn't know who you were. And years later, you were introduced and started telling each other about the day. And he said, "You are the last person I've been looking for. I found everybody that helped me that day. You were the last person that I was looking for to thank and make connection with." And he found you, right?
That's right. He did. As a matter of fact, it was Governor Rick Perry that brought us together to introduce us at the 2016 Republican National Convention.
Wow. Hang with me another minute. We'll let you say goodbye on the other side. I want to ask you, you can think about it during the break. What do you think about our country today, 24 years later? What has transpired that brings us to where we are today that you never thought would occur standing there on the Pentagon grounds minutes after the attack? And now to think X, Y, or Z is happening. I'll ask that of the Colonel. He'll answer it. Don't go away.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab And here, you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
Welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. Leo Holman coming up, Annie Cyrus coming up. And today, by the way, is Share-a-thon for VCY America. They carry us on their, I think it's 73 stations, whatever it's up to now. It's quite a few. And we've been working with them for 30 years. You guys believe that? And today is their Share-a-thon. If you listen to their network, have one of their stations in your market, or if you simply listen online and appreciate what they're doing, you might consider supporting them. I don't know what yes, I do know what the number is. It's 866-376-9829, 1-866-376-9829. You might consider making a tax-deductible contribution to the great VCY America, 1-866-376-9829. Many, many years of faithfulness. They have not changed course. Can't say that for a lot of groups. Can't say that for a lot of organizations, can you? They just have stayed course. They've stayed the course. You might want to consider prayerfully supporting them, would you? Also at vcy.org. You can do it there, vcy.org. Colonel Rob Maness of robmaness.com, just for another minute or so, if we go to Leo. Colonel, 24 years ago today, standing there as the Pentagon is smoldering, the World Trade Center is smoldering, plane has gone into the field in Pennsylvania. Where we find ourselves today, what shocked you the most as you think about yourself standing on the Pentagon grounds? What shocked you the most of what has occurred in America since that day, based on those events?
Well, in the ensuing days, I got pulled into part of a small team working in a highly classified area, working directly for the Secretary of Defense and the chairman to try to figure out who did this. And the who part of this is the Islamists that hate freedom and they hate everything America stands for. They had tried to take the World Trade Center towers down before, as you know, the blind sheikh and that crowd. That's what we figured out fairly quickly through the intelligence measures that we were looking at in the surveillance data that we were looking at. And what is amazing to me today, Brandon, is that we are about to elect a red-green axis Marxist Islamist to be mayor of New York City. We are seeing cities being built by radical Islamists in the state of Texas that will be Sharia law and Islamist only. There are actual Sharia courts in Texas now. We are seeing an Islamist running for mayor in Minneapolis. We are seeing the Islamists running amok in Michigan. And they are part of this red-green Marxist Islamist axis. We are seeing American kids protest and do violence on behalf of the Islamist Hamas Nazis in Gaza and Iran, and Hezbollah Nazis in Lebanon and Syria. And that shocks me that we have enough of that enemy, that adversary is now embedded inside the country, that they are comfortable showing themselves this way. And I'll be honest with you, just to link it to the events of yesterday, which will change the world and America the way 9/11 did for my generation, this generation and the ensuing generations of my sons and grandsons will be forever changed because of Charlie Kirk's martyrdom. And let it be clear, Jack Posobiec said this morning, and I agree with him. Charlie Kirk is a Christian martyr. Yes, there's politics involved, but this is about Christian martyrdom. He has recently said that Islam is the sword at the neck of America, and it will kill us. He has recently not come to life, but recently started talking about how Islam and Marxism have a nexus called this red-green axis that is the major threat to the United States of America's very existence internally in this country. And that shocks me that the team I was on has allowed this condition to exist today. And I have to accept some responsibility for that because I didn't leave the military until late 2011. It is just shocking that that's where we're at. And that's why we have to step into this breach that Charlie Kirk's human person has left and gone to be with God Almighty. We have to step into that breach that's left and help those that remain in Turning Point USA continue to spread that message, because he's created millions of young men and women in America that really do believe like you and I believe. That's what Charlie Kirk did. The best attribute of Charlie Kirk is his willingness to talk about his Christian faith and live his Christian faith as a husband and father before he did anything else. That is what ultimately led to this huge success of Turning Point USA. I met him when he first started Turning Point USA. He was a teenager. I loved the idea because I was being kept by my political consultants running for the U.S. Senate from going to talk to young people. They were telling me they'll never vote for you. Well, I was running on the platform Donald Trump eventually won on, and Charlie Kirk proved last year they did vote for him. And it's because of that effort, but it's because Charlie put his faith first, and he lived that faith being a husband and a father. I've watched him grow up and become a husband and father, and a Christian that I have to stand back and say, I want to be like that Christian. These young people will carry that forward, and we're not going to quit. This assassination, this martyrdom, is an attempt to get us to stop talking about Christianity, stop talking about the America that Christianity underpins and the values in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and to stop proving that those are the winning ideas over Marxism and Islamism and tyranny, and they will win every single time. We have to continue that mission.
Indeed. Well said. Colonel Rob Maness, robmaness.com, robmaness.com. Thank you, Colonel. Thank you for being with us for a large portion yesterday as we broadcast for 7.5 hours live. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Brandon. My show's coming up. We have a security expert. The original show is Jason Polinsky of 3D. Let me make sure I get it right. 3D Response Organization. He's a 30-year law enforcement lieutenant, specializing in securing schools and campuses and active shooter counter tactics and strategies. And I think it's very apropos. God put him in my way. I wanted to do a show about that based on the Christian school, the Catholic school that was attacked viciously by a transgender. And now it appears it's strongly possible that a transgender fascist terrorist has killed Charlie Kirk on a college campus. So it should be an interesting show. We're going to learn a lot.
Indeed. RobManess.com and at WorldviewTube.com, produced by our guys in the control room. WorldviewTube.com. Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you, sir. God bless you.
You too. Logan, do we have the pictures of Charlie with us and on our motor coach? We'll show those again to our audience. If we had the chance to be with Charlie at an event organized by myself and Mike Lindell, produced by Logan, and was producing the TV, Logan and I were, and we did this event in Wisconsin. We were in, where were we in Wisconsin, Logan? It was like Hudson? Where were we? We were about an hour from the line. What was it? Can't remember where we were. About an hour away, out of the Twin Cities from the line. And anyway, we met then, and he came on board our motor coach, and was just very low key. New Richmond, that's right. I went to school with kids who went to the Christian school I went to who were from New Richmond, Wisconsin. We were there, and so he came on our motor coach before he spoke, and I was the one who was going to introduce him, and we were just sitting in the motor coach visiting, And he got up and he looked at my wife and he said, I haven't eaten all day. And it was morning time, late morning. And so she began to pull out granola bars and things out of our cabinet of our motor coach and feeding Charlie. And he was just very laid back, nonchalant, just an average young man. And we enjoyed our time there in the motor coach visiting with him before we walked out and introduced him and he spoke. And very approachable. He was making time for everybody that wanted to visit with him, get pictures with him. And it's just so tragic to see the videos of his children, his little girl. And the thought, again, as we expressed yesterday so many times, that at some point these poor children will come across that video footage of their father being murdered. It's footage like JFK. You can't avoid it. It's there. At some point in their life, they will sadly stumble on it. You go through any kind of social media and you're on feeds, you don't know what's coming up next. But it's just heartbreaking when you think about his wife and children. Today, we're hearing that J.D. Vance will be sending Air Force 2 to Utah and will be meeting with Charlie's widow. And they will fly on Air Force 2, his body from Utah to Arizona. I'm sure we'll have coverage of that in the images and pictures here at Worldview Tube. Joining me now is Leo Holman. Leo has an article out today at leoholman.substack.com that is titled, Charlie Kirk was an American patriot, but more importantly, he was a 21st century Christian martyr. A 21st century Christian martyr. Joining me now is Leo. Leo, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Good to be with you.
Leo, I guess you're not the only one using this phrase that he's a Christian martyr. Did you hear that being referred to by Colonel Manus, or did you put out your article and now people are copying your headline?
I don't know. I put my article out about an hour ago, and I was listening listening in on your interview with Colonel Manus, and was surprised to hear him actually use that phraseology. So, I doubt he had time to already read my article and pick up on that. He probably formulated that in his own mind.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about your article, please.
Well, I tried to look at it from 30,000 feet above, and not just through the left-right paradigm that I think the upper elites would love us to view it as. It's always left versus right. I think they prefer division over any sort of meeting of the minds, even on one small issue, I think, between left and right. And when you look at the original reaction from the left, it was more celebratory and calloused. You had the Democrats in Congress even, speaking out against a public prayer for Charlie on the House floor yesterday. But as time went on, they seemed to get in sync with their messaging, and you started to see more and more conciliatory comments coming from the left, that this is a shame. It's a threat to our democracy with all this political violence. And so it just got me thinking that even though they were coming around to a more acceptable point of view, they were still trying to make it all about politics, that we shouldn't be getting violent over politics. And I think that the bigger picture here is that Charlie Kirk, there's lots of people on the right who espouse conservative politics, and there's people with big audience who espouse conservative politics. Brandon, audiences with much bigger than yours, and you have a pretty big one. And they're not experiencing anything near this type of persecution.
Hold right there. Be right back. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at WVWFoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us, Worldview Radio. So let me go back to Leo Holman of leoholman.substack.com. Leo, pick up the point you were making again there, please, before the computer took it away from us.
Yeah, I think in the news cycle that we're being subjected to, it's tempting to see this purely as a political event. Charlie Kirk was a conservative, a traditionalist, family values. We get it. But was he really murdered simply because of that? I think the bigger way to look at it is that he not only was conservative in his politics, but he was he advocated a biblical worldview. And whenever you tie your politics to your biblical faith and then reach out to people publicly and, much like you do, Brannon, and tie the gospel to the message, that I think puts a bigger target on your person. And so I do see Charlie as murdered for his faith more than murdered for his political views. And that, in my view, makes him another in a long line historically of Christians who went against the culture, of their times, denounced the popular views and stood firm for Christ and shared the gospel publicly with as many people as they possibly could.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sorry, but I'm very suspicious of this, that the gun has been found and inscribed with some anti-fascist LGBTQ message. This all just seems way too convenient, right? Because I'm sure there are just so many trained snipers running around out there that are pro-trans or trans themselves. Here's the first question. Do we know where all of America's military snipers are? Suspicious. Have we found the and made a count of any of the really good snipers that are former military or current military? Because we've even got some military people that are on social media making comments and statements they shouldn't be making on a variety of issues. Saw one today about a guy supposedly in the military rejoicing over this. So I don't know what'll happen to him. But here's the thing. We got some folks in our military that are unhinged. And this is what happens when Joe Biden and the rest of them all let them in and ask, don't tell, and all these other policies. So, but I'm not buying this. You're going to have to really work hard to prove to me this is some trans shooter. Am I the only, am I wrong in being very leery that this just seems too convenient for their cultural Marxist agenda to pit the left against the right and to stir up and provoke young people? What they really want, or what they're really trying to do, is get these young Charlie Kirk young people in the street to go to war with the leftist crowd? Because we see a lot of these mindless young people with their kafiyas and all their Jewish hatred and pro-Palestinian and Black Lives Matter, Antifa propaganda in the streets. Are they trying to draw out the Charlie Kirk crowd to go out in the streets now, incite them to start a civil war? Or what is this about, you think? Because I don't trust the narrative that's running here. Do you?
No, I think it's very astute to question anything right now that comes out of the government's official narratives and the mockingbird media that parrots them and promotes them. There is a lot of hate, a lot of raw nerves out there right now in America. When you look at all of what's gone on over the last several years, especially post-COVID, nerves are on edge on both sides, okay? And I hate to admit it, but America now does have sides, and there's a lot of people out there who want to find out, immediately upon meeting you, pretty much, what side are you on? I meet more folks like that. And if it's not the side they're on, they're ready to kick you to the curb and move on. And that's if you're lucky. they might try to do something nasty or say something nasty about you. And so whenever you have this level of hatred burning in the hearts of people in the population, it's very easy to manipulate. People are manipulated when they are easily manipulated when they wear their emotions on their sleeves, whether it's, and hatred is one of the most powerful emotions. So it just stands to reckon that if you're ruled on a daily basis, an hourly basis, we see it in the road rage. You make one false move that by accident on the road and somebody's ready to pull out a gun and shoot you. I mean, people are ruled by their passions, ruled by their emotions. And when you have that level of rationality governing people's lives, they're easily manipulated by the elites, by the people who control the messaging coming out of our bureaucracies, our media, even our military. Let me tell you, folks, any of you who think the military is the answer to all of our problems in this country, you're going to be sorely surprised, okay? The military is not what you think it is. It is trained to kill. It is not trained to, go and be the good humanitarian, feeding people in the streets and caring for the homeless. So when we have a homeless problem and we call the military in, it may not be dealt with in exactly the way you think. Same with the crime problem. All of these issues that are real problems in real parts of America, I would never deny it. I think by reaching for the military option, it's going to inflame matters because people are raw right now in their emotions. It's going to cause blowback and then blowback to the blowback. And before you know it, things spiral out of control. And now you've got martial law or something similar to that on the streets of America. I hope that's not where we're heading. I have seen some indications that maybe cooler heads are going to prevail in the aftermath of this horrific Charlie Kirk assassination. I saw where MSNBC fired one of its commentators because he was trying to he publicly blamed Charlie for his own murder. There's a Middle Tennessee State University assistant dean, Brannon, who was fired today because I believe it was a female, came out and celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk yesterday at a Tennessee university, not exactly the most biggest haven for liberals you would think would do that sort of thing. She was fired from her job today. So maybe people are going to react to this in a way that tamps down the divisions and the tensions. That's what I hope happens. Yesterday, it did not look hopeful. Today, I'm hoping maybe it gets tamped down a little bit and we don't head for that triggering event. We don't let this be a trigger. That's another thing I talk about in my article today. Don't let Charlie's death be a trigger for more violence. Let it be a trigger for what he would have wanted, which is spiritual revival and doubling down on the message that he was trying to carry to America.
Mm. And as we're showing next to you, what appears to be this sniper's nest, if you will, on the roof with a direct straight line to where Charlie Kirk was sitting under that tent. So we're going to be watching this, of course. Closing question if I go to Annie. The left, the cultural Marxist, we've been talking about cultural Marxism here now for a few decades. And I'm sure the audience at some point thought I couldn't get through a show without using the word cultural Marxism. But now they know why the last few years. Now they know why, right? Because again, what we do is we talk about trends and try to tell people where the culture and things are going so we know how to respond. And the cultural Marxist, they want revolution. The new way of revolution is old-fashioned. The new way of revolution is a diffused and dispersed disintegration of the system. That's what Herbert Marcuse of the Frankfurt School said. And by the system, they meant the free market, capitalist system, our constitutional republic. And they are trying to label speech as violent, hate speech, violent. This is what we heard coming from Joe Biden as president. That MAGA people, Christians, patriots, pro-lifers were potential threats or domestic terrorists. It was going on during the Obama administration with the Department of Homeland Security putting out a manual saying that veterans, people interested in Bible prophecy, are all potential terrorists, right? So they're associating Christianity and freedom of religion and freedom of speech with terrorism. Well, how do you fight terrorism? How do you fight violence? With violence. And that's the message they have sent. They have sent the message to confront these people wherever they are at. Go up to them and confront them wherever they're at. Make them afraid, make them terrified, track them down, put them against the wall, right? We have a whole montage of elected officials saying this over the years. And now what they've done is they have ingrained into people the idea that biblical Christianity, free speech, talking about the Constitution, the rule of law, pro-life, traditional marriage, traditional sexuality, traditional values, biblical values is violent speech. And violence must be met with violence. That's what they have taught. And now we're getting the fruit of their psychological brainwashing operation. Closing comment.
I totally agree with that, Brandon. I would only point out that the incitement is coming from both sides. When you have a president that talks about deporting United States citizens because of views that he doesn't agree with, that is going to incite the left as much as the left is inciting the right.
And I would agree.
And so you've got,
when he says things like we need to take away the citizenship of what's her face over there? She's
Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes. You know, I criticized that a week or so ago. I said, this is beneath the president. He doesn't, we have bigger things to worry about than the citizenship of Rosie O'Donnell. That's a perfect example. He has to stop that. That's not Ronald Reagan.
I agree.
And you say, well, Donald Trump's not Ronald Reagan. Well, he might want to take some examples. But let me just say, I'm not so sure that President Trump is in good health. And he didn't look good today at the 9/11 memorial service at the Pentagon. He looks very tired. His voice sounds tired. And now we're reading reports that Barron Trump has moved into the White House. And I'm also seeing a lot more hand-holding by Melania and Trump in public again today. So I don't know, folks. I think something's going on with President Trump's health. And I don't know if that's causing him to be less patient. Look, when I don't feel good, I wear it on my sleeve. My wife will tell you that.
He's always had that propensity to say, in my opinion, outlandish things about his political enemies. But you're right, it has been much worse in his second term than it was in his first term. It's starting to come across as a little bit unhinged. And it serves no purpose other than to distract and inflame and incite. While we may think people on our side may think it's funny, when he says something like that. But when you're on the other side, they don't take it as a joke. They take it very seriously, okay? And the left then uses that to rally its troops. So when you've got the both sides using the news of the day to take a slap at the other and inflame their side, that is a powder keg waiting to go off. And I think that's where we're at in today's America, Brandon, where you have got a powder keg just waiting for a fuse, what did the Islamics call it? A 0-hour event.
Yeah.
They call
it doesn't help when you have the former FBI director putting 8647 in the sand with seashells and putting that on social media. I mean,
exactly.
We saw this from the highest of levels. It's ridiculous.
Yes, we saw this under the Biden regime.
Yep. LeoHolman.substack.com. Yes. I wish we had more time. LeoHolman.substack.com. Be right back with Annie Cyrus. Don't go away.
Consumers often ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your foundational core product for a whole range of health and wellness issues. Let me give you a few examples. If you're a little bit older and you have some joint health issues, some problems with mobility and discomfort, the elixir is going to be your best friend. If you have some skin health issues, wrinkles, hydration, aging, all of those elements are going to be benefited from the elixir, including age spots. Now, if you're in a younger demographic, maybe visual health is where you need some assistance. Eye fatigue, dry eyes, all of those are going to be benefited by the elixir. It's a core product because it benefits so many.
Welcome back. Glad you're with us. My next guest is Annie Cyrus of liveuptofreedom.substack.com, liveuptofreedom.substack.com. 8 Islamic nations that are behind so much of the terrorism and jihad, cultural jihad and physical jihad, Sharia finance and more, and funding terrorism. Annie Cyrus joins us. Her full article is available at liveuptofreedom.substack.com. From ground zero to self-destruction, America's real 9/11 legacy. That's the title of her latest article at liveuptofreedom.substack.com. Annie, we got about just a few minutes, but I want to get into this great article today. Tell me about these 8 Islamic countries, will you please?
I'm sorry. Yes. So, as you know, everybody walks around talking about September 11. I mean, starting this morning, less than other years, I guess, rightfully so with Charlie Kirk's situation. But, you know, banners are up and profile pictures have changed to the towers and the never forget. But more and more reality is being fading away. I mean, from day one, I don't think most people talked about the 8 countries behind the Islamic coalition of 8 countries. But in the Substack, you can find the involvement of Iran, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Afghanistan, UAE, Egypt, Lebanon, and Qatar's involvement, specifically and directly with September 11, and from there on until today, with everything we have faced in America. And I guess my biggest not feeling too great today, as you said, is every name in that list is either considered a great ally of U.S. today or is being negotiated with under flag of diplomacy. Where now I'm not saying 8 countries are the limit. Many other Islamic societies, countries, and organizations are behind destruction of America or Western civilization, but these 8 countries are on top of the chart. And Brian and I still don't know why we're okay with any administration dealing with these people. I understand the concept of diplomacy, but I'm also pretty sure that diplomacy is not a tool to be used toward destruction of America. That's not what diplomacy is about. Unless I misunderstood what diplomacy is.
So tell me where you think we're going 24 years later. I asked that of the colonel who was in the Pentagon that day and helped survivors. Where do you think we're going 24 years later?
If you don't mind, I'm going to actually just read it right off on my closing statement on my Substack. Here's where we're going. The next September 11 will be celebrated in the conquered America. That's where we're going, Brennan. The next September 11 will be celebrated in the conquered America.
And we are seemingly being conquered from New York to Minneapolis, to the entire state of Minnesota, the Twin Cities, Michigan, Texas, Florida. I mean, it is happening fast.
Yes, and I want to be very clear. I've been either walking or writing since yesterday, since we got off air from your program late night. And Brandon, we're not just being conquered by Islam or by Marxist or socialist or communist. We are being conquered by all of it. I'm working on a piece, just a walk down history, listing from the first assassination to the last, which was yesterday, And I'm just pointing out the tactic never changed. You know what changed, Brannon? The Americans' reaction to the tactic. And that's why we are where we are. And I'm literally pointing it out. I have established 20 of them so far. I think I have another 10 or 20 to get to Charlie Kirk. But you see the pattern. The outrage changed. You literally said it with Leo. As long as they throw an idea of this was a transgender, that's it. Case closed. Everybody's going to believe it because it fits the new enemy in their face. And they have played that game for so long. And we just keep falling for it.
Do you see Islam being mentioned at any of these 9/11 memorials? Is Islam a word not even being mentioned? Are they even talking about who did the attacks?
No. Right now, as of today, what I noticed the most, if anybody's posting any kind of don't forget memes, again, I'm not undermining what happened yesterday, but majority of posts are still about what happened to Charlie yesterday. But wherever you see the post, it's either attached to the quote-unquote inside job or the Mossad and Israel.
I know. Can you believe this? I'm getting people that are in my friend circle saying, you don't think there's a chance Israel did this? I said, no. What would Israel have to gain by this? The Prime Minister of Israel was on television today giving tribute to Charlie. I said, you really think the government of Israel, all they have going on, is worried about someone like Charlie Kirk, even with millions of followers and him questioning some things? He's been a staunch supporter of the Jewish people. He is a Christian Zionist. No, but yet people were going there all over the place yesterday and today.
Yes, they are. And that's the thing. It's a new norm. I was mentioning to a friend of mine this morning, I said, the reason quickly the Mossad was behind yesterday operation spreads quickly, faster than usual, because right now, after what happened during the 12 days war of Israel and Iran, Israel has gained a lot of momentum. They need to take that down. They need to turn Israel into the, for lack of a better term, what they use, the coward group of Mossad who go sneak in the shadows and kill people, because that's how they describe Mossad. That's why we will hear the Mossad name faster than we did 10 years ago. But then I guess I was made to promise earlier today that no matter what, I won't let anyone silence me. And I made that promise, but I don't know how much time we have left, Brannon, to keep us spreading the truth. I really don't know.
Well, the music's playing, and hold right there. But to me, I think people need to be aware of the fact that they have weaponized language. They have declared certain values, certain defense of principles and ideals as being violent and thus must be met with violence. But that's what Islam teaches, right? If you slander the prophet, you should be murdered. Quick, I got 10 seconds.
Yes, absolutely. Words are now your guilty verdict.
Your words are your guilty verdict. Stay tuned for Crosstalk. Don't forget about their Share-a-thon. Take care. And we're back with Annie on Worldview Tube and WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida. So, Annie, isn't it interesting how much the left and Islam has in common? Islam says if you slander the prophet, if you disagree with the prophet, if you call the prophet what he is, a pedophile, a child molester, a prophet pretender, as Usama has this long list he goes through, they put a fatwa on your head, right? They put a death sentence on your head. No wonder the Muslims and the Islamists get along so well with the left, right? I mean, they're the same way.
They are, and remember, they both take their orders from the devil.
That's right.
They use different terminology to describe their cults, but the boss is the same boss. They serve Satan. That was
my presentation at our rally in Wisconsin in April. We had 1,000 people show up. Is that my presentation was Marxism is Satanism, right? Marxism is Satanism. We run around calling it communism and Islam, but these things are really forms of Satanism.
Exactly. A few years ago, I was asked, when did I get a chance to study Marxists and communists and know so much about it? I said, I have never studied it. I was raised a Muslim. That's all the study you need to understand the Marxists and socialists as well. It's the same playbook.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same reason those you see survived communist countries also easily understand the Islamist danger.
Mm-hmm. What do you think's coming between now and the end of the year, and then as we roll into the midterms?
Based on what I was feeling yesterday and I'm looking today, clearly what they did yesterday to Charlie Kirk is going to turn into another hashtag. Therefore, the people aren't going to make a move. So the enemy is going to continue as planned, which is the quietest coup of our government. I have written about that on my Substack as well, through globalism. And right now, your audience may not be ready to hear this, and that's all right. But right now, the number one candidate for the globalist standing by to take power in America is J.D. Vance. So if the plan continues, I don't believe we will have President Trump as the president come 2026. I believe we will have President J.D. Vance.
Well, I don't think President Trump's well. If you saw him this morning again at the Pentagon, he looks very tired, very weak. His voice doesn't even sound like it used to. I'm seeing a lot more affection being paid by Melania to him, holding his hand more. And now we're hearing that Barron has moved into the White House.
Yes. That's the thing. I was just giving a general statement that we won't have President Trump, but a while ago I brought it to your attention off air that I do believe they are taking him out gradually without an open or obvious assassination.
Are you saying they're poisoning the president?
Yes. I have a feeling the announcement soon will be some sort of cancer, but I will never believe it is really a cancer.
Or is it going to be a heart condition?
Could be a heart condition, but normally they tend to buy more sympathy in a quiet transition or a coup through cancer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, watching, again, I've been doing a lot of studying, building a lot of list of pattern of the machine. And based on that, cancer tend to be the go-to.
Well,
but yes, I do believe they're eliminating him, but they know they don't have what it takes to fight back a coup. So they're doing it the very Soviet way.
Mm. It doesn't make sense that Barron is moving back into the White House when he is in college. And I think he's going to continue going to college through a satellite of his school in New York that's in D.C. But it just seems odd. And when I hear that, I think to myself, there's only reason to me, in my mind, to do that is if the threats are so great that they feel like they can't protect the first family, the immediate first family, which would be Melania and Barron. They can't protect them to the degree they can if they're in D.C. and on the White House grounds and all that has to offer with a bunker and access to airport, to Marine One at pretty quick notice. Or either that, or the other option is health, and he's going to be spending more time with his dad. I guess the third option is, hey, you don't get to live in the White House, just all the time. Why not take advantage of it a little bit right now and be there? But his dad is 79, so maybe it's a matter of, hey, I just want to spend time with him. He's 79. This is a great experience to live in the White House and be with him and encourage him. I don't know. Something isn't looking right in his health, in his way he walks. His voice doesn't even seem as strong. I just feel our country is in a major transition that's already underway, of course, but about to accelerate in more ways than we can figure. Hang on to the Lord, folks. I don't know what's coming, but he does. liveuptofreedom.substack.com is our website. Ours, Worldview Foundation.
Colonel Rob Manus has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation, having worked his way up from the enlisted